Welcome to issue 301 of Critical Encounters, a podcast about Marvel Champions, a living card game by Fantasy Flight Games. Here, we take a good look at the most critical piece of the game, the encounter sets. We'll discuss those poorly understood characters, unfairly labeled villains, and their various plans to shape humanity and benefit the planet, as well as those so-called heroes intent on thwarting them. I'm one of your hosts, Michael Boggs, and joining me tonight is Scott.
Hi there.
Oh, hey. And Daniel.
Hey, welcome back to the lair, sir. Good to have you.
And Steve.
Hello, Michael. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Good. We have had 300 shows, and now we're kicking off the next 300 with super secret villainous guest, the Boggs father. I'm so excited to have you here. This is going to be a fun show, I hope.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on.
Yeah, I'm so glad you could come back. It has been a while since you've been here, but I still think everybody knows who you are. Unless you're brand new to this game, we know Michael Boggs, game designer for Marvel Champions, right?
Yeah. A couple years back, before I handed my position on the game to Tony Fanchi, who's done excellent since I left. So I was there for the first 2 years, and then Tony kind of continued on from where I was.
So what's your current role then now? Because we do want to talk to you about the Trickster Takeover Pack, which has your name as designer in it. So tell us about that.
Right. So right now I am kind of working as a freelancer for FFG. So Trickster Takeover was sort of it kind of came about surprisingly. It wasn't really something that we planned after I left FFG, but it was just kind of a fortunate string of events, and kind of since then I've continued to work with FFG in various capacities.
Okay, so freelancing. Hope that means will be future freelancing, because
Indeed,
the newest scenario pack, the Trickster Takeover, has been great reception. So we want to sit down and we want to talk to you all about that tonight. So I am so enthralled by the Trickster Takeover Scenario Pack that I'm just going to skip right through our normal What's on Your Mind tonight, because I have nothing on my mind but the Enchantress and Loki and all those great cards. So let's dive into that, and maybe we'll come around to Daniel later. Who knows?
I was going to say, it's really brave of you, Steve, to skip the segment you were not on.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
It's a whole new show after 300.
Love it. But this is the right decision, sir.
Okay, good. Okay.
Well, Steve, hold on, Steve, because I'm just so excited to ask Michael a question. You just mentioned that he was the designer for Trickster Takeover, so I have got to know, Michael, what was the initial spark or like design challenge that led to the creation of Trickster Takeover? Like, were you trying to solve a problem, or were you just so excited to like unleash some kind of chaos?
It honestly came down to just me being maybe too cocky, a bit of an idiot. So essentially what happened is, so I left FFG back in 2022. So my wife is Chinese. And at that time she was in China. We'd lived in the US for a while. She came to China because we were planning to move here together. So she came here first. And the idea was that I would follow soon after, once my visa cleared and everything. So she, came to get us an apartment, find a job, all that type of stuff. But because of COVID, I couldn't get into China. So like we went for like over a year trying to figure this out, just couldn't do it. So eventually we decided to meet up in South Korea, which is where we both met. We went to South Korea in 2022, stayed there for a little while. And because I used to live there, I've still got some friends who live there. And specifically one of my friends, Joey, he owns a board game cafe in Seoul. And so I was chatting with Joey one day, like, hey, I was living in Busan, but I was telling him like, hey, I'm going to come up to Seoul, visit. He's like, okay, yeah, great. It'll be good to see you. He's like, actually, I've been wanting to run a Marvel Champions event for quite some time. Would you be interested in coming to that? I'm like, oh yeah, of course, that would be awesome. And so what I assumed that event was going to be was me just kind of like showing up and, shaking people's hands and signing stuff and just kind of playing with people and, enjoying the game together. But it was maybe like 2 months later, just a few weeks before the event was set to start. I'm talking with Joey again, and he's like, "So what like scenario or what activity are you going to bring for people?" I was like, What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Yeah, like what like what's the event that you're going to run?" And I'm like, I don't have an event that I was like, I thought people would just be playing the game and I'd just be hanging out." And he's like, "Oh no, I've been telling people like you were gonna run like a scenario. Like I've been telling I thought like you could run like a big multiplayer scenario where everybody could play." I'm like, "Joey, that doesn't exist in the game." And he's like, "Well, do you think you could make it?" I
In
was
2
like,
weeks?
for some reason I was just like, "Oh yeah, sure, that's no problem. I can absolutely make an entire scenario in 2 weeks with art and graphic design and everything. That's totally fine." So I told him yes, and then within like 15 minutes, I'm like, "I'm such an idiot. Why did I say yes? That's going to be so much work." But I wanted the event to be fun for people who came. There were like 10 people that had signed up, so I was like, "Okay, I'll make something where I can play with 10 people. I don't know what to make exactly, but I'll figure it out." So him and I talked about some villains. We ended up landing on Mephisto because it was around Halloween, and he kind of wanted to go for that vibe. And so I made a scenario that could play up to 3 tables worth of people. And it was very quick. It was a very rapid, iterative process. I had to like find all the art myself from the actual comics and use some. There's like graphic design online that people have created, and I use some of that. It's very, very handy. Whoever created that, I really appreciate it because it saved me from having to do all that myself. Put together scenario, play tested it a few times myself, and was like, you know what, I think this is fine for this one event that's going to last a couple hours. I think this is okay. So I went to the event, got everything set up. As I'm there, a person walks in like, "Oh, hey, I've never played Marvel Champions before, but I heard about this event. Is it okay if I join?" "Oh yeah, totally fine, not a big deal. Love to have you. Thanks for joining." The next person, same thing. The next person, same thing. At the end, we have not 10 people, but 17 people. And over half of the people had never played the game. And from the people who had played the game, only a few had played more than like 1 or 2 times. So suddenly I had to like teach all of these people how to play Marvel Champions while also like running this brand new event. So like we didn't actually get to finish it. I think the event was set for like 3 hours. We started at like 7 o'clock. It was set to end at 10. By around 10 o'clock, I think we had maybe got through maybe half of the villain's hit point die. And eventually I was like, "I think you guys have won. Like, thanks for coming, everybody." I didn't want to keep everybody there all night. But like while they were playing, there were definitely small things I was seeing here and there. Like, okay, I could definitely refine this. I could tweak this. The scenario is working. Everyone's having fun, but like it could be a little bit better. But whatever. It was a one-time event. No reason to like go home and actually make tweaks and iterations. Until like a couple days later, I get a message from Caleb, who also used to be one of the designers on Marvel Champions, and he was like, "So generally, I never post anything on Facebook, but for some reason, I decided, because it was a fun event. So there were a couple pictures. I put them on Facebook of just saying like, 'Hey, I was at Joey's event. It was a good time.'" And Caleb saw that, and so he reaches out and he was like, "Hey, would you be interested in like maybe doing this scenario as like an official thing?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, okay, maybe." So he like ran it up the chain to get it approved and stuff, and eventually it was like there was a bunch of discussion. It took a little while to get the ball rolling, but yeah. So we started having official meetings. Decided to change the characters involved. There were some licensing issues, so we instead of Mephisto, we went with Enchantress and Loki. So actually, Loki became the mass multiplayer thing, but to sort of fill out the pack, we added the Enchantress scenario, and yeah, everything just kind of went from there. So it really just started with me just being cocky, being like, "Yes, I can absolutely do this in 2 weeks," when I should have been like, "What are you talking about, Joey? No, there's no way I can do this in 2 weeks."
Well, we are so grateful for your lack of humility.
Listen, big thank you to Joey.
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
pushed me to
We gotta get
get
Joey
myself
on.
moving.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I feel like both Mephisto and Loki were great avatars to inspire this whole event because it feels designed by some trickster maniacal entity driving you beyond yourself.
So every scenario tends to carry like a mechanical identity to it. what was it that you wanted the Trickster's identity to feel like mechanically, knowing that it came from somewhere else, or even Enchantress's mechanical identity? Does that ever factor into your designs with this pack?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So with Loki, he was sort of so I kind of started with the Mephisto design, but I just ported that wholesale into Loki at first, and then I put it up for the play testers once we got to that stage of the process, and the play testers are all like, "Hey, this is really bad." So I was like, "Okay, well, I'm going to go back to the drawing board and I'm going to redo this scenario." So with Loki, the sort of mechanical factor, of course, was the mass multiplayer aspect, getting that to work, across all player counts. That was something that the design team decided that, it didn't matter how many players you had, even one player, this scenario needed to work flawlessly. So figuring out a way to make that function alongside like reasons to interact with other groups when you are playing mass multiplayer, those were sort of the mechanical challenges. And then for Enchantress, she wasn't as maybe bound by specific limitations. Hers was more just like, how do you bring about her enchantment magic, and sort of the mechanic inspiration there was the trances of like spells she's putting on you and you're resisting, but then eventually you give in. And she introduced, I think she's the first scenario with forced actions, which you have to do during the round or during the hero phase. Doesn't matter when, but you have to do it. And so that was kind of another thing of like, her magic compels you to do something. How do we make that into sort of an actual functioning mechanic?
Yeah, I want to follow up real quick with forced actions. Then, was it like how difficult was it to find that balance where you have to take this action? They're kind of good, they're kind of bad. Was that a difficult process to get that kind of tweaked so that it felt good? Or
Yeah. That I think that was actually maybe the most challenging part of her scenario, because her scenario overall is actually pretty simple. So usually with the simple scenarios, they tend to be a little bit easier to kind of just get to the point where they're working. You might have to make small tweaks and adjustments for balancing, but you don't have to like wrestle with anything. So, but I would say the two things that I did have to wrestle with her scenario were putting the charm counters on your enchantment to flip it to the forced action side, and then once it was there, actually getting those forced actions to be, the intention is like she's charming you to work for her, but she's not like trying to like absolutely destroy you with that magic. I mean, you're there to now assist her, so it's like it's she's not helping you necessarily, but she's also not defeating you in the same way as other villains. So I wanted the force actions to be things that were like inherently bad, but you could figure out ways to use them to your advantage, to sort of like get around her charm capabilities. So finding that balance was quite tricky.
Well, I'd say you absolutely did it based on like just how the community seems to just universally love that scenario.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Oh gosh, it's so fun.
it is
And
fun.
it's funny that you call it a simple design because, like, as you're playing it, it certainly doesn't feel that way from the player side of things. So, right on.
Would be remiss if I didn't comment. My son, who plays with me, he's 12. I told him you were coming on the show, and he said, "Oh, tell him that Enchantress is too hard." Him and I have lost to it quite a few times. So
Yeah, she can definitely. Sometimes she surprises you with stuff. It's definitely it's yeah. I've had the same a few times.
He does have a really uniquely clean like loop of interaction though, whereas like you kind of know what you're doing. You fall into the rhythm of her really fast. I think there's that simplicity of her design, despite a lot of other complexities being in there. It feels very refined and well polished.
Awesome, I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
But let's move back to Loki here, Michael. So the Trickster, this is thematically, you've got to make something that's all about misdirection, chaos, stuff like that. As you're designing and you're building this multiplayer epic thing, there's got to be a time where there's a tension for you to draw the line between maybe like what we'd call fun chaos and frustrating chaos for the players during gameplay. And like Steve and I had the great good fortune of being able to play this scenario epically, and clearly the final design went to fun chaos. But were there moments where you'd maybe crossed over into frustrating for players and had to bring yourself back in? And like, what was the design process going between like, how do I keep the theme intact while making it a playable, fun experience?
Yeah. So the Loki scenario was one of the most challenging scenarios, just because for me to design, just because I've never worked on any mass multiplayer scenario. I know other cooperative card games have had them, and I looked to some of those to like kind of see what existed, what had been done, what mechanics maybe I could be inspired by. Um, some of that was helpful, but I think, because Marvel Champions is such a different game from something like Arkham or even Lord of the Rings, it was hard to translate some of that stuff. So with Loki, there were a couple things that I really wanted to hit with the scenario. So, like I said, it had to be playable at any player count, but also at those high player counts, you both needed reasons to interact with the other players, or with the other groups rather, but also there needed to be a way to not knock any player out of the game, but also, keep the game still interesting at the same time. So what I was afraid of is that, somebody would go to an event at Gen Con or wherever, a big 60-person, 100-person thing that's going to take hours to play, and round 3, round 4, they get hit, they're unlucky, whatever it is, and their character gets knocked out. And then they just have to sit there and watch everyone else play for the next couple hours. Like, that would be pretty miserable. That'd be pretty lame if that happened. So I wanted to make sure that like that just couldn't happen. You can't really be knocked out of the scenario. So figuring out how to balance that with the reasons to interact with other people. Also with Loki too, like there needed to be some sort of central mechanic where everybody was sort of like pointing their damage at a specific point and sort of like beating up on Loki together, but figuring out how to do that in a way where it wasn't just one person running back and forth between the tables. Like, okay, you did 53 damage, you guys did 13 damage, and like, just trying to figure out all these like micro moments of math just constantly. So the solution there was the like illusions that he's created. But then beating up on those illusions became a little dry when you're just fighting the same one over and over. So like figuring out a way to have those cycle and be a little bit different each time they come back. So there were definitely a lot of points where it was, I think, frustrating for the playtesters because, like, if any one of those aspects of the scenario isn't quite working, the scenario kind of started to fall apart. Especially the moments where like finding reasons to interact with other players. I think they're called the synergy supports. The one that you get like the tokens, you can build up these counters, you can give them to other tables. So like I wanted interaction between the tables, but I also didn't want people to have to like get up and okay, what exactly do you guys need? We're going to give you this like one specific card. It should just kind of be like a bigger, bulkier experience, being able to pass those, but making sure that they're powerful enough that you want them, but not so powerful that like, they're going to break the game. So yeah, there were a lot of facets of it where it was, I think probably quite frustrating for the testers, but luckily they stuck with it and they helped me get everything into place where it, I think functions pretty well. So.
Absolutely. You all landed on a blast. So thank you.
Well, you also put in like the Mangog and Door Between Worlds, which were like the minion in the side scheme that everybody can interact with. So that's a nice extra little piece. So if you're playing it in solo, like regular mode, there's still minions and side schemes you got to deal with. But in that epic, your pod, I know, right, Daniel? We played, and guys at the end of the pod were like, we have the Door Between Worlds, help us. And we're like trying to send threat that way or send attack down that way. So helping you interact with other groups in your pod was, I think, a nice touch and not overbearing or taking away from the solo experience.
Yeah, those were absolutely suggestions made by the testers. I was kind of worried to have cards like that in the pack because I don't know, I didn't want to break the flow of gameplay. But in these mass multiplayer things, I think there's going to be a little bit of breakage, and that's fine. That's part of the experience. Communicating with the other tables, seeing what they need. But I was a little bit worried that if there were like specific cards that you could attack from afar or thwart from afar, that it would cause too much of a headache. But the testers convinced me otherwise, and I think the first time that they were kind of like introduced into the testing cycle, and everybody's like, "Oh, this is great." So I was like, "Okay, cool. Like that means there's something there. We should keep exploring it." So yeah, I'm happy with how those cards turned out, but I was definitely nervous to put them in at first.
Well, I know Daniel and I have both played the massive multiplayers for like Lord of the Rings and Arkham, and some of those were like you had to wait for a turn to end. Did everybody
Yeah,
finish? And the game could go. This one you don't have to, which is pretty nice. But somebody could just be like, "We have the Mangog. Any help?" And then you just hear from the end of the line, 14 damage on him. You're like, "Okay, thank you. He's dead." Like so, yeah. Yeah. I like that we're not waiting, so you can play at your own pace.
Mhm.
I mean, technically, those cheaty heroes could like sandbag and be like, "Well, we're gonna play super slow because we might have a guy die." But I don't think people are necessarily doing that. But you never know
I
with
don't
those
think so.
heroes.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, really, the only annoying part of the epic stuff is that you're in a convention place that has 100 people that you're screaming over,
yeah. It's, you're
has,
hoarse by
which
the end of
has
the.
nothing whatsoever to do with the design of a thing. Like, if like our 3 tables were isolated in a room, like none of that kind of stuff, I think would have even remotely mattered. Like you would say at a normal volume, "Hey, we've got the guy. Send us 8,
right.
please." Right? Like I don't know. So most of it is just that's the chaos of it more than any kind of interaction between cards and stuff. Because I feel like what makes those things shine is that you can be helpful and be helped by your pod mates, which is fantastic. And I think our group did a great job of that, Steve.
Yeah, I think so.
I think actually to that point, Daniel, that is a really good point. That was something else that I was trying to alleviate a little bit. And the rules are written. I think pods. Is it pods are limited to 4 groups of 4? Is that what it is? Up to
I think
16 players, I think. Maybe
believe
5 groups of 4, something like that. There's some limitation for that
there
reason.
is. Yes.
If you're in a big convention and somebody's on the other side of the play area, and it's like, did that person say they need like an attack from Mangog? Like did that person say, and,
Yeah.
it makes it really, really difficult. So I think one of my biggest focuses was just to keep that flow. I wanted the gameplay to just keep flowing because Marvel Champions is very much about that. For me, it's often a flow state game where I just get those turns where I see the combos and spend the perfect resources and all that type of stuff. And it's if that is broken over and over and over again, or if you have to sit there and just wait for somebody to finish an entire group to finish their stuff before you can go to the next phase of the villain or whatever. I don't know, that wouldn't be very fun for me. That wouldn't feel like Marvel Champions. So yeah,
Agreed.
figuring all the little tweaks to sort of keep it focused on that experience was very important.
All right. Well, so we kind of talked a little bit about the fact that it sounds like Loki was a little bit harder. Was he the one that required the most iteration? And what was it about his ability specifically? Was it more about honing in on mechanics like those shatter tokens and the synergy counters like you were talking about? Or was there something else in that pack that required the most iteration? Or was it some other encounter in this overall package that really ended up being kind of hard? And if so, can you elaborate more on like any ideas that got cut just because they were too onerous or tricky or just didn't work out?
Yes, Loki was absolutely the most challenging aspect of the design, and it's hard to say exactly which part. I mean, there's so many facets to his design, so many problems that I was trying to squash that it's sort of I would say really the hardest thing about Loki was just to make it the coordination between pods, to make that work seamlessly, to sort of give you the ability to sort of damage the central Loki, but like without just overwhelming the event organizer with having to constantly
Mhm.
calculate a bunch of damage. So sort of getting once I had that and that worked well enough, and that all works through the illusions that he's created that you're cycling through, I could kind of start to build everything else out from there. I could build the synergy counters and the supports, and the things like Mangog, for instance. I think that's a really interesting part of the design, but it's not strictly necessary. That could be in the pack, but it didn't have to be in the pack. But like with Loki's functionality, with his shatter counters, I think that was really the part that I needed to nail down, and that took me a while. We went through multiple iterations I want to say I got up to like iteration like 9 or 10, which
Wow.
sometimes that happens, but for this one, like a lot of the iterations were big differences for one another. It wasn't just small tweaks. It was like, so, especially those early ones, like they were big jumps, entire redesigns. Yeah, I would probably say that aspect. In terms of cut content, I know there was one modular set that I had to cut just for space. I didn't cut it because it was too complicated or anything. In fact, I don't remember what the theme of it was, but I know at the time when I cut it, I was like, oh man, I really like this one, but it was just a necessity of the pack.
Speaking about modular sets, we do get only one modular set in this pack, which is
Yeah.
different from like the hood that you did where we got like 47 or something like that.
You gotta balance it out, Steve.
Yeah, okay, averaged out. So this modular set, Trickster Magic, has these minions that when you defeat them become allies for the heroes. Fun. That's some hero bias, obviously. But what can you tell us about that? With and how did you settle on the 4 minions that are in that? Titania, Whirlwind, Absorbing Man, and Zax.
That modular set was actually 100% Caleb Grace's idea. That was very early in the kind of iteration phase, pre-planning everything, and we were talking about, you always talk about the scenarios that you're going to do, the mechanics that'll be in those, and then oftentimes you can talk about the modular sets too, and that was just one that he pitched. It's like, what if there was one where like Enchantress took over these minions, but then when you defeat them, you get allies that are put into play. I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting. So I think we ended up deciding on those specific villains or minions. What is it? Yeah, the Titania, Whirlwind, and Zax, and who's the fourth one?
Absorbing Man.
Absorbing Man. Thank you. Yeah. Why did we pick those? I think it was to sort of create this idea that there is a little bit of disconnect. That it's not like one team that she's specifically charmed. She's just charming whoever she runs into. So, and there was also, we wanted like a diversity of power sets as well. So, kind of just took for semi street level bad guys, not super powerful, but powerful enough that once you got them as allies, they're going to be a pretty good assistance in defeating her. So yeah, it was something that Caleb pitched, and I was like, that sounds cool. And then yeah, that ended up being the one modular that I could fit in there. But in my mind, I quite like the modular, but it works for both scenarios. Like you can kind of plug it in however you need to. So yeah, I quite like that one.
Yeah, it's interesting. We talked about the lore between them and like why Titania might work for the heroes and why Absorbing Man might, and what are the previous times Whirlwind did something good, and then we got to Zax and we're like, wait, Zax, and we were supposed to ask like, why did you pick Zax specifically? I thought you just thought he was cool, so
that's most of it. Yeah, I was like, this
Yeah.
he's all electricity. That's cool. Yeah,
that's cool. Okay, nice.
That's as good a reason as any.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, why do people play the heroes that they play? They think they're cool, right? Or they like them for some reason. So
I think the mod was actually for. Now I'm looking here at the cards. I think it was for Malekith. Because Malekith, the whole storyline for this pack is based pretty heavily on. I can't remember the name of the storyline right now.
War of the Realms.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so we took a lot of inspiration from that, but in that Malekith is like the big bad. So I was like, I want to give him his own modular set. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. But the art that we commissioned, I didn't want to lose that. So Malekith just ended up becoming a minion in Loki's scenario.
Got it.
Nice.
yeah, Scarlet Rhodey will be happy to know that was your inspiration for it. That was the guess.
So, Mike, the game is known for tying theme to mechanics. Like, that's, your fault from the very genesis of it all. So which card or mechanic in Trickster Takeover do you think best represents that marriage of flavor and function?
Oh, interesting. Okay. If I had to pick any, maybe maybe I'm a little bit biased towards these cards because I had to work on them so much, but just the hypnotic gazes that flip to like the Trance of Greed, Trance of Wrath. I quite like those cards when I play, and to me, it feels like I've eventually like succumb to the Enchantress's magic.
Love it.
So that'd probably be my top choice.
Makes sense to me.
Okay, so you've got the Enchantress doing her thing. You have Loki doing his thing. And these packs, they're not standalone, right? There's this greater ecosystem of all of Marvel champions. Do you have any challenges or consideration that goes into balancing a villain when you have, dozens and dozens of heroes that are going to go up against them?
And Scott,
Oh,
get used
yeah.
to Steve taking your turn.
I just stole his question. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's totally fine.
Sorry. Ooh, so
What villains do.
Trickster.
Yeah. That's definitely a consideration. I think it's for the most part, unless there's like some sort of like specific mechanic that breaks another mechanic. For instance, if a hero does one thing that somehow completely overwrites a villain's mechanic, or vice versa, I would probably change the villain in question as I'm developing them. But there's a certain point where there's so many permutations of just the different villains versus scenarios, or sorry, villains versus heroes, that it's pretty much impossible to like know everything that's going to come about. So I'm very trusting in the testers. If they know of anything, please let me know. But sometimes I'll look for specific interactions that I'm worried about. I used to do that a lot when I was actually at FFG. Now that I'm a freelancer, I kind of just cross my fingers and hope that Tony and the team catch it for me if the testers don't say anything. But it's a consideration you have to always keep in mind.
Is it easier to err on the side of making villains hose heroes rather than heroes have some kind of thing against villains? Because you can always just kind of deck build towards a scenario if need be, right? So
yeah, usually.
Like, it's more the worries that a player card can shut down what a villain is trying to do. That's really a problem, I imagine.
Yeah, I think for me, I usually prefer that the villains sort of have they are the challenge. They're the puzzle you have to solve. So like making sure that if I were developing two things simultaneously, like a hero and a villain, and there was some sort of like the hero was naturally able to shut down the villain can't even function, I would probably change the hero in that moment just to make sure that the villain can actually have its challenge that it's creating, because players do have so many options in the card pool. But when you're just doing the villains by themselves, like I actually haven't had anything like that happen in a long time, where I feel like most of the mechanics are separate enough that it's pretty rare where one thing just completely obliterates the other one. But
Sure.
It does happen sometimes.
But if you're going to obliterate anyone, please, heroes is fine.
Yeah, always, yes.
Yeah.
Always.
I think the only real time that can happen is like a really powerful stun lock deck can shut most villains down. But Loki has like 4 ways to get stalwart or steady. So like that's sort of taken care of in this one, at least. But yeah, I think that's it really. And not everybody wants to play that way anyhow. So that's yeah.
When they take the game out of the game, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So during all this development, what was the moment that hit you the most as like your eureka, I got it, that's the spirit of this, like Trickster Loki? Because obviously we had a Loki already. So, and the shtick here in this one is mostly the multi-table pod kind of mechanics and stuff. But you still captured a lot of Loki's vibe, in some ways more pure Loki, because we don't have that Infinity Gauntlet story going on like we do in Mad Titan Shadow. So what was your design moment that made you feel like, yes, I've captured the Trickster?
Well, that's a great question. It would have been very much toward the end of the development cycle. I don't remember a specific moment, but with the limitations of the mass multiplayer design, there were so many. It's kind of bad to say, but there were so many other more important things that I had to sort of focus on just to get the foundation of the design, that those Loki extras were a little bit added on in the end, just to sort of like give him that flavor. As an example, a lot of his illusions, I think all of them deal with treacheries in some way. And that's very much inspired by the Loki minion in the Thor pack, the Nemesis minion.
Yeah.
I always, liked that design can be very frustrating to fight against because he is so slippery, but that does feel like Loki. So I was like, okay, let's kind of take that inspiration and use it here. But really, like that was something I think that came a little bit later, and a lot of those like just those cards that kind of give it that Loki tweak were cards that I had to like create later in the process because there was so much focus on just sort of the foundational aspects. So yeah, for this specific scenario, I don't think there was really a eureka moment for me. A lot of scenarios do have that, but this one was more just like, I think I was just scrambling to to get it to a functioning level. Sometimes that's all you can do.
Can't remember if we asked you about the eureka moment from past things you've designed and you've been on the show to talk about. Is there one that comes to mind? Like, ooh, I got it.
Yeah, a lot of times for me, it's like I'll be like thinking on it, for days and days and days. Sometimes I'll have already started the design. I'm about to. I know for Enchantress specifically. Originally, I was going to do a different thing with her. I knew I wanted some sort of like spell that she was casting on you, but these spells they were going to like. I think it was something like you could add counters. She would add counters, but you could remove counters, and like when she added them, something would happen. But when you remove them, you get some sort of benefit. But I don't know. Eventually, I think I was laying in bed one night, and I was like, it'd actually be really cool if she could just like force you to like do something. It's like maybe a forced response. It'd be cool if she could force you to do an action. I was like, oh, okay, wait, how would that work? And so, kind of you have those like small little like, how would that work? And that sort of inspires something greater. A lot of scenarios, I think like another example is like the Venom scenario with his bell tower and all that type of stuff. And just having those like little moments of like, oh, if I make this small mechanic, then it can sort of inspire everything else.
Right.
Those are always it's exciting when you have those because it feels like they really propel everything forward in the design.
I think the
Awesome.
forced action opens up a ton of great game space for future things where, most basic idea of innocent bystanders over there and every round you have to do this thing or they die off, but you're trying to do something else. And like it just gives you this option to create whatever story you want to do and force the players. Like it doesn't have to be an enchantment. It can be something else. I think it's a great addition to the game as a whole. That little word, forced action, like boom, it's perfect. So
yeah, it's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate the kind words. It was something once we got like I feel like the functionality of it came together really quickly. But once like one of the first times I played it, I was like, oh, it's really interesting to like figure out when to do this because you want to optimize it, but just like knowing how and when it can be quite challenging sometimes. So I'm really happy how that turned out.
I cannot wait for future villains to completely abuse the forced response or forced action mechanic.
yes, me too. I'm waiting for it. It's gonna be great.
Now we're gonna. All right, so Michael, as you know, like we're a villain centered show here. Like that's who we are, and I have to believe that designing these scenarios is a kind of emotional roller coaster process for you. You like stops and starts, and there's things that work, there's things that don't, all that kind of stuff. But like at some point, you have to get into this place where you start feeling villainous. And on a scale of like kind of nuisance raccoon to full Loki, how villainous did you feel designing this scenario?
Definitely nuisance raccoon. That was
Nice.
I was very much in the trash can, just like sorting through everything, just trying to find gold.
Did you just call us villains garbage? I think he called us garbage.
I did, yeah.
Oh
He
my
did,
goodness.
he did.
Okay.
We're basically trash pandas.
All right.
Wow. Wow.
So how about this one? If Loki was giving you game design notes, what
the trickster himself, Steve?
The trickster himself, yes.
Wow.
What infuriating things would he insist on adding to his scenario, do you think?
That you clearly had to resist, Michael.
Oh, okay, wow. I feel like there would be, I don't know, I feel like he'd add some way to like regenerate all of his health or something. Like, oh, well, you're defeated now, Loki. And he's like, no, I'm not. You flip the top card of the deck. If it's a treachery, I get all my health back. It's like, no, sorry, Lefty, you don't.
That's good.
I actually would have left the building if that was part of it.
At a certain point, you'd be like, I'm done.
I'm done.
So when creating this scenario, how many times did you cackle maniacally? And was HR made aware of this?
I don't know if HR was made aware of it. I hope not. But I cackle maniacally every day. So, however many days it took, it would have been that many.
Love it.
That's what we
So
do.
you got all these cards you've made, but there's got to be one that you kind of personally hope that when the players see it, they're like, "Oh God, not this one." What's your groaner in this pack if you had one?
Really, any of the big minions in the Loki scenario. I wanted them to feel like oh crap, we need help, we need assistance, and specifically by that point, hopefully you've assisted each other in giving the synergy counters and stuff. So I think for those moments to actually shine, you need things that are kind of a pain in the ass to fight. So really any of those minions were supposed to be that.
So let's say you can pull a trickster move on the entire champions community. What harmless but hilarious prank would you want to pull on all of us?
Harmless but hilarious prank.
I mean, maybe you're the only one who thinks it's funny. That's okay.
And I will say this is the hardest type of question to answer with zero
zero prep.
I would make it so that from now on, permanently, anytime someone sits down at a table and a chair to play Marvel Champions, their chair is just 1 inch slightly too short. It's just enough where you have to raise your arms up at just a slightly uncomfortable level. Not to where you can't play, but it's just I wish this chair was just a little bit taller. It's it never will be. It'll always just be slightly too short.
So every player is an 8-year-old.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
Exactly. I want every player to feel like a child. Yes.
It is that's diabolical. It really is.
Mm-hmm. That is.
I'm actually dealing with that right now. I have a computer chair that's slightly too short for my desk. So
keep seeking.
Sometimes I want to play a computer game and I'm like, this is kind of miserable. Or I'm typing and stuff. So I have to go to the other room to do it.
Now, are you sure, along the lines of our, IT support before, that you've raised the chair up as high as it can go, Michael?
Have I plugged it in and unplugged it?
You plugged it in.
Reset the chair.
Did you reboot the chair?
Have you rebooted your chair?
So which hero do you think the Trickster absolutely despises, and which one do you think Loki secretly roots for?
I think it's the same for both questions. I think it's Thor. I think he hates Thor, but I think he loves Thor.
I thought Thor for the second one, but why the first one? Okay.
I think it's a love-hate relationship.
I mean, they are
I wonder if
brothers.
Thor would be good in this scenario.
Sort of.
I guess he would be, right?
Yeah, you want to get those minions out.
Yeah, there are minions.
For the big ones, I would imagine, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Good old hammer throw to the face. Take out Malekith.
Did anyone bring Thor in our little pod, Steve? I don't think they did.
No, I don't think so.
Nobody themed that one. That's too bad.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
So if you could rewrite the rule book, purely out of spite for the players, what is the first chaos-infused rule that you would add?
I feel like Marvel Champions already has that. I would just highlight the definition of you. That would be front and center, very first page. You have to learn that before you can learn the rest of the rules of the game.
So then, Michael, where do you land on the word while?
Oh boy, here we go.
While? Oh man, I'm not familiar with this one. I feel like is this the new you?
This is the White Queen.
This is
This
Daniel's.
is the White Queen. This is half the community is with me, half against me. But
Okay.
If someone told you while you are engaged with something, you're confused, what would that mean to you if that thing left being engaged with you?
Well, if you're no longer engaged with it, then you're no longer confused.
Oh no! Oh.
My God. Steve, you better not edit that out.
I'll leave it, but him and Tony are going to have to go toe to toe.
Edit that out.
Him and Tony have to go toe to toe.
Wait, what's Tony's ruling?
Well, because the term "you are confused" means you place a confused status on your hero. And the confused status does not go away when White Queen leaves play. So that terminology explicitly means place a status token on your hero. The status token doesn't go away when she leaves play. So you're still technically confused but you can now remove that confused status token. Otherwise, when you would remove it, it constantly gets replaced.
But even more technically, you're correct about grammar, Michael. So thank you.
I guess, yeah, I do see both sides of it. I think maybe that ability itself, just you are confused because it's adding that extra conditional thing on top. That is a little, yeah.
That's where the
What-
issue
what-
really is. It's not in the while.
Yeah, it's yeah. Because if it was like, while this is engaged with you, you cannot thwart or something like that, or your identity cannot thwart, then I think that would be pretty clear. But yeah, you are confused. That is that's I see why it's ruled that way. I don't think Tony's wrong, but
Yeah.
it's
So
tricky.
she leaves being engaged with you. She takes the card with her. Obviously,
It's a big
It's
a big
okay.
fight.
The whole
it's
thing.
And
a
it's
huge
been-
fight, Michael.
It's
but
been going on
I'm
for like
glad that
100
you
issues now.
landed
So.
on the side of justice and righteousness,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you know how language works. So thank you, Michael.
We got to be careful because we don't want FFG to be like, well, Boggs said this, so he can't make any more content for it.
Yeah, he's done.
Yeah.
Or
Done.
He told the
the
company
next
line.
the next freelance move that Michael makes is like he just uses while on every.
Wild willy nilly everywhere. Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Well, thank you for being a champion for truth.
Yeah, anytime. I'm happy to
Appreciate
start
it.
arguments.
Uh, moving on slightly. Why no Sleipnir? Did I say that right, Daniel? Why don't we get the horse,
Sleipnir?
the Asgardian horse?
8-legged horse.
Yeah.
Because he is Loki. He'd have to be another thing.
Wait, no, Sleipnir's not Loki, right? I thought
Sleipnir
Loki
is
was
Loki.
something
Well, he's
else.
the baby, but he's the baby for like I don't know. I
Well, no,
think
yeah,
it would
that's
be
the baby
really
of Loki.
weird.
That's Loki's child.
He's like Loki's baby, but like I don't,
Well,
it would
that's
be-
that's in
it
the
would
North
be
Mist because
really weird.
in the comics, Loki rides on Sleipnir with Thor off to do something. So like they're
But
separate.
that never happens
things.
really because Sleipnir is a gift given to Odin.
Well, you're talking Norse. I'm
Because like
talking Marvel.
it's kind of Loki's shame. Loki would never want Sleipnir around in like the myth, but
yeah,
'cause
that's
it's
the
sort of-
this is
it's
where
sort
we
of
get the,
embarrassing because people kind of make fun of him for being a girl for a bit.
Okay.
So
all right. So that's the difference between like the Norse and the Marvel stories. Okay.
yeah,
But still, we could have got that card. It would be fun. So maybe Boggs will have to come back and design a Loki hero for us, and then he could have a Sleipnir form or something. He could form flip.
Cool.
then you really couldn't have Sleipnir in his hero deck.
Yeah, it could be like a form flipping. You know, like Vision from dense to intangible or something, from Loki to Sleipnir. So something
I
weird.
think technically Sleipnir is on one of the cards. It's let me see if I can find it.
Oh,
It
we have
is
like an art. We have an art moment.
I think so.
Get the cards up. I'm gonna look.
It's one of the synergy cards. Yeah, mounting resistance. So it looks like Odin is writing Sleipnir.
As you
Oh
should.
yeah, okay.
Love the double entendre of mounting. Not usually, it's not used in its usual way. So you'll probably cut that, Steve. I understand. I was channeling Josh for a second. Forgive me.
Yeah.
Well, it's a double entendre like
Anyway.
normally because you
Yeah.
can mount a resistance, as in like to
And
feel
mount
a
to
resistance,
Sleipnir.
but also mount a horse, but also mount
Which
in a more
is a mount. Yes.
suggestive way. Yes.
Right. I was just saying, Scott, that we usually mount things
Really
in
a
other
triple
ways.
entendre.
If there was a mountain in the back, if there's a really tall hill in the background of the art, that would also be a mount.
That'd be
that
pretty
would've
cool.
been-
Yes,
that
that's
would be
true.
good. Yeah. Okay.
I don't even know where we are.
Were there any enchantment mechanics that didn't make the cut that you would have loved to have found room for? So we talked about how like that whole charm mechanic stuff for Enchantress. We had some questions and folks interested in like people really like those. So like, was there an interaction, a forced response, or something that you thought about in terms of her charm abilities that didn't make it?
No, we decided, or I decided pretty early on that there needed to be 5 of these enchantments, just for the sake of variety, like in a 4-player game, and really the mechanics of each of those, they all got tweaked and changed a little bit, but for the most part, they were all pretty similar throughout the entire playtest. So I think I kind of just found 5 effects that were different enough from each other that it kind of gave you a reason to replay the scenario, but also that that all kind of like kind of highlighted a specific aspect of like what you were trying to do in her scenario. So Once I got those 5, I didn't really iterate too much on finding other alternatives. I think maybe the biggest change to these was like the when revealed effects, where when it flips over, it does a thing. The when revealed abilities weren't on the enchantments for quite a while, until maybe the middle of the playtest. One of the playtesters suggested that they have them to sort of give her a boost of like, you flipped over and now this big thing happens.
That was a brilliant idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Once we put them on there and the testers played with it, it was like, okay, it feels much more impactful now. But because before she would just like, oh no, I've been charmed, and I flip over, and now it's like, oh, now I'm doing this action, which the actions can be potent, but like just one action every single round, or especially that first round, it doesn't feel that explosive initially. So having the win revealed, I think, helped kind of add that moment of like, oh, this thing has finally happened.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. It sounds like you kind of leveled it up a little bit from where it initially was designed. I like the feel. I like that impact. So yeah, it was a cool shift.
Yeah, the testers always have great suggestions.
So Michael, we asked the community because we told them that you were coming on, and we wanted them to feel free to ask any questions that they could think of. And we promise to bring them to you. So how would you feel sort of about a lightning round of community questions?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay. Now the questions might be coming at you at lightning speed, but your answers can be as deep, thoughtful, and long-winded as you desire, sir.
Okay.
Because the first question on this list is definitely not a rapid fire answer.
The first one, and I said that because of the first. Yeah, because the first question requires you to talk for maybe 20 minutes. So, all right. So let me throw this one at you, Michael. What is your favorite Marvel Champions related memory? Can you describe it for us?
This one is actually surprisingly easy.
Oh, sweet.
This one is still to this day, when Nate and Caleb and I were first designing the core set, we were putting all the heroes in the core set. We decided on Iron Man immediately. And every single time we would talk about Iron Man, Nate French would make the quote. Every single time he would make the quote from the first Iron Man movie, where like, Tony Stark did it in a cave with a box of scrap. You just do that over and over and over again. Every time we talk, just with a box of scrap. So yeah, it was always, at first it's like, come on, Nate, but then after a while it's like, this is so stupid, I can't help but laugh. Like this is so dumb. So. And it was just like that for years. For years that was just like the quote. I'm sure to this day they still even do it. So it's good. It was always pretty fun.
It's impossible. Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps.
I love that.
Yeah.
So not what I imagined you would answer this question, but that was awesome.
But excellent.
But totally excellent. Come on, lightning round, fellas. Yeah.
Okay, you've been given the authority to greenlight one hero deck of your choice. Any Marvel character that you think would be the most fun, regardless of licensing issues, regardless of how popular they are, no matter how well they might sell. Who do you greenlight? Who do you want to make?
Oh wow. Dang, that's a
keep in mind that Santa Claus and Godzilla are Marvel characters. I don't know if it helps you or hurts you.
Santa, that would be a pretty cool. I'm interested in designing that one. I would, if I had to pick. This is such kind of a weird. There's an X-Men character or like an X-Force character named Marrow, like Bone Marrow. And she grows her bones, and then she can throw the bones at people, and she uses them as daggers and stuff. I don't know why. Ever since I was a kid, I thought that's one of the coolest. I mean, weird, but coolest power sets. So I think that would be kind of interesting to she's using her bones to throw at people and stab people with. So maybe that.
We do have a basic ally for Marrow.
She's in the game, right?
Basic ally. Yeah. After Marrow enters play, deal 2 damage to an enemy. So she must grow a bone and chuck it at someone. I did not know the. Yeah. Nice. Okay. Cool.
But you're right. She needs her own set.
Yeah, her whole. I would probably do some sort of, because I would imagine it probably hurts to grow bones through your skin and throw it at people, and there
Crack
was a
those
cartoon
bones
I used
off
to
and stuff.
watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all that
Wow.
stuff. So she'd probably like take a damage to do a thing, and but then you'd have that whole aspect of like as your health gets lower, you get benefits and stuff. So kind of one of those risk reward characters, which I always really
Nice.
enjoy.
I like them.
Yeah, I like that a lot. So now that you're not officially FFG, can you tell us who is truly the most villainous person at FFG?
Most villainous person at FFG. I'm gonna say Aaron Holtum. He seems like such a nice guy, but he would murder you if you turn your back on him. He'll kill you.
That does not fit the personality that we know when we have talked to him. So you're right.
Really?
He's probably
That's right. He's good.
super
then.
sinister
He's
under
good.
there. Yep.
He's a
Seems like
super
such
villain.
a good
Yeah.
dude, and then just gonna choke you one day.
Oh, he always seemed like such a nice guy. Just kept to
Yeah.
himself. Yeah,
Exactly.
serial killer.
Exactly.
Okay.
He's a mastermind.
Yeah.
All
Awesome.
right. In the true spirit of lightning round, let's 180 from that type of question to Michael. How did you see your approach to campaign design evolve over the different boxes, just over your time at FFG designing this game, and not at FFG
wow.
as a freelancer? Your evolution as a designer. What's changed in your approach?
I think so. A big thing that Marvel Champions really tried to hit. We decided early on that we wanted each campaign box to stand on its own in terms of like mechanics. Like it was very, very intentional that every campaign box was going to sort of do a different thing. I don't know if they're still continuing that trend.
Yeah.
But like the
Yeah, they
first
are.
couple boxes. Okay, yeah. The first couple boxes with like Red Skull and Galaxy's Most Wanted and what are the other boxes? Mad Titan Shadow, all of those, the Sinister Motives. Each one we very much tried to like make it a different thing. And so the idea back then was like, any of these could be after the core set, they could be jumping in points. You see a villain you really like, and you're like, oh, I want to fight that one. So people who are interested in those villains are going to buy the box for that reason. But longtime players of the game, it was kind of to give them some reason to like continue with these boxes and have a new experience each time. And I don't actually have a problem with that design ethos, but I think like now I've kind of shifted a little bit where I feel like sometimes having that consistency is nice. Where sometimes like, oh, I go into the campaign and I like have certain expectations and I don't have to relearn everything every single time. I think me as a player, like I prefer that experience a little bit more. So, and that I think really that comes from like having to sort of like reinvent the wheel each time with each campaign, which can be fun and exciting and a cool challenge. And I know some players really like that, but I think if I were to do like a campaign on a different game or something, I'd probably lean more toward the direction of having more of a kind of a standardized system.
Interesting. Great answer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so talking about campaigns and challenging villains and knowing that you're really a villain at heart, did you intentionally try to make some of your villains or some of your campaigns like more difficult? Because you seem to have the harder scenarios. Galaxy's Most Wanted, Sinister Motives, The Hood. They all have notoriously difficult scenario designs. Not necessarily the whole box, but part of them. Not to mention Standard 2, Expert 2. Like, did you...
I think you've talked before about how GMW was partially a reaction to how much people responded to Mad Titan or to Rise of Red Skull being kind of like too easy, or the game being too easy, right? But was that like a theme that you kind of carry forward more than just on the one box?
No, not strictly. I think it actually, so it kind of ended up that way because Caleb and I used to leapfrog our designs. So, for instance, he was the lead on the Rise of Red Skull box, and then I was sort of the lead on the Galaxy Most Wanted box. But at the end of the day, like Caleb was, he was kind of in charge of the whole game line. It was his kind of task to make sure that everything was kind of up to the standards, FFG standards, to make sure that the game was moving in the right direction, all that type of stuff. And I was there, of course, to assist with it. But if there was ever a point where like Caleb and I didn't see eye to eye, then Caleb really had the final say in the matter. And so like there were definitely, I think with Rise of Red Skull, that one, we did get a lot of feedback, like a lot of, a rapid amount of feedback about how the entire experience was like just too easy overall. A lot of emails and, from people being like, I went through this entire thing within like 2 hours. Like, that wasn't fun. It's like, okay,
Angry
well,
people on Reddit, right, shaking their finger at you guys.
Facebook and stuff like that. And so, you have to take all of that with a grain of salt a little bit. But when there's enough of that feedback, it's factored into your design and development going forward. But Galaxy's Most Wanted turned out much more difficult in the end than was intended, because I think at the end of the development cycle, there were some tweaks made to the design, to certain scenarios and stuff that were maybe not as tested or as refined as they should have been. And there were kind of just some multiple points throughout like different packs where it was the things that ended up in my pack weren't strictly things that I was planning to put in there or that I wanted to put in there, but we just needed to make space, or we were trying to get into the game, and it just happened to be what I was working on at the time. So I know it definitely looks like a trend where I was trying to like push the bounds of difficulty. And I think I as a gamer, I do think that I get really bored when I'm playing any game, Marvel Champions or anything else. And, I'm however many rounds into the game, 3-4 rounds. And I've realized like, oh, I've already beaten this scenario. I know I've already
just
won.
a matter of time. And
exactly. I just got to run out the clock basically. And, here 4 rounds from now, I'll win. But like, I don't want to put players in that position. But at the same time, I also don't want to put players in the position where like you're doing really well. And then all of a sudden, the villain just waylays you and like, oh, okay, I guess we lost. Like that sucks as well. So while I feel like maybe some of the earlier scenarios were too much on the one side of like, being very predictable and realizing that you've already locked the game down, some of the other scenarios where we tried to push the bounds of difficulty swung it way back in the other direction. So I think since then, like the design team has very much narrowed on the difficulty that works and kind of found that line. But it did take us a little while as a team to sort of find that middle point. But then as well, there were just certain points where it's like there were just things added maybe that shouldn't have been added.
Michael, do you think that part of that, like in the early stages of the game, taking like critical response too seriously or too heavily, like Caleb has said, like when you think about sales and stuff of this game, like the nerds who listen to podcasts like ours and like the people who are on Reddit, the people who talk about this game represent such a small percentage of the purchasers of it, right? Like you'll never hear from the people that struggled with Red Skull, right? Like, so as a designer, like how do you like take the critical response from like the people who are really involved in the community, really involved in this subset of geekdom versus like the everyman who's really the larger percentage of the populace who's buying your game? Like, how do you do that as a designer? Like, I've never figured this out as like who are you supposed to listen to? Because you got your playtesters, you've got your insiders, and they're saying stuff's too easy, but probably to the normals, they're having fun and it's a challenge all the time. So what do you do?
Yeah, I mean that's genuinely one of the hardest things to do. Like I that was one of those things I didn't until I worked at FFG. I wanted to be a designer for many years. I love doing it. It's when I'm not doing it professionally, I still do it in my own free time. Like it's just something I enjoy. But then when I started at FFG, I realized like it's not just about design and development and like balancing and cool effects. You're also constantly balancing all these different voices as well and these different directions that are tugging you. So it's one of those things. It's very hard, very, very challenging. I think really what you need to do is early on in the game's life, you got to establish sort of what the game is intended to be and who the game is intended to be for. And so with Marvel Champions, we knew that pretty clearly that, Marvel is a very broad IP. It's very inclusive. It's very much intended to sort of be something that anyone can get into and enjoy. And so we wanted to capture that same thing in the game, with the gameplay, with the difficulty, with all of that stuff. So that was very much like where we set the difficulty of the core set, for instance. Oh yeah,
sure.
Go ahead,
Do you think that created like a vocal minority as opposed to like probably Arkham? I imagine the people who play Arkham are also listening to the podcast and the content and the
There's not as
Like,
many
there's not-
casual Arkham players.
Right. There's not casual Arkham like there is casual Marvel Champions players, probably. So when you're thinking about that as a designer, like you need to appeal to a much greater number of people, right? Than like people who listen to us, for example.
Yeah.
Having trouble.
We always needed to keep in mind sort of like the very very much the type of gamer we would talk about. Caleb and I was somebody, they grab Marvel Champions off of the shelf. They've maybe never played a card game before. They bring it home, they open it up, they play it with their kids who are like 8, 9, 10 years old. Like we knew that wasn't going to be every gamer, but we knew that was going to be some of the gamers, and we wanted to appeal to that kind of family audience. And so that limited there for a while, it limited the complexity and the general like difficulty and stuff. But because there was such a surge early on, like difficulty discussion from the community, and when I say the community,
Right.
I'm talking like the 5% of players who actually like vocalize these things
That's
on
right.
Reddit or Facebook or emails or whatever it is.
That's exactly.
It sometimes it is one of those things where you do. I know that I'm guilty of this, just maybe focusing too much on the loudest voices in the room. And so that's kind of what it became early on, of like, oh wow, people really like they like the game, but it's just not challenging enough. Like we need to at that time we kind of scrambled with heroic mode, for instance. That was really like a patchwork design, because it was like, well, we need something immediate, and like we can't put out new content immediately. Like that's going to take a long time. So like, what tweak, what adjustment could we make that would allow the players to scale the difficulty to whatever difficulty they want? And so that was sort of the patchwork solution.
And you did have
and
that in the core box to begin with. Like you did have scaling. It's not like that you didn't think about it. So
Right, there's standard, there's expert.
With expert and stuff. But it was, it's when a lot of the feedback was coming in of like, oh, I've played on expert and I beat it immediately and it's like not even fun. I think that was always the problem of like people saying like, oh, it wasn't even fun. If it was a bit more challenging, it would have been fun. Like I've experienced that myself with many games, and sometimes it's so close, but it's just not quite there. So I think like there for the next couple sets, that really influenced and colored the way that we kind of thought about the difficulty in the game. But I do feel pretty strongly that like when a game first releases, it's very much a blank slate. People don't know what it is. They're trying to discover it. Some people are going to play the game and love it. Some people are going to play the game and bounce off of it. Like that's just sort of the natural evolution of things. Eventually, though, you're going to get an audience. People who like the game continue with the game. But over time, there's only going to be like a core subset of that audience that actually stays. There are going to be people that drop off for various reasons, certain things that frustrate them or they don't like or whatever it is. And I think like the difficulty discourse was a big sort of thing that kind of drove people away early on, where they wanted a more challenging game. They tried Marvel Champions. It wasn't that. They, sent us messages, let us know, but then they didn't really continue with the game, a lot of them. So like, they jump in, they play this. Hey, sorry, this isn't fun. I don't like it. Just letting you guys know. We hear the feedback, but then we're thinking like, oh, if we change this, then this will make those players happy. When in reality, like, no, those players have probably left by that point. And that was something that took me a long time to learn, that, by the time we're putting out this more challenging content, the people who have stuck with the game have stuck with the game because it's a little more casual. They've stuck with the game because they sort of enjoy just sitting down and playing with their family. And so when they open up a box that's like Galaxy's Most Wanted, and they're like, what the hell is this? Like, that was definitely a misunderstanding on our part as a team of like, thinking that if we made the change, it was going to keep people, when in reality, it probably drove more people away long term because we weren't really focusing on the right audience. So I think that's really what you got to do, is you got to find your audience and kind of just stick with those. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, thanks for answering that. I'm sure you're tired of hearing about some of that. But I mean, Galaxy's Most Wanted has a great balance. There's some Drang and whatnot, and then Ronin, like the Sinister Motives has Venom Goblin, who can be very difficult, but you have these other great scenarios who are like the challenge builds. And I think after all of this, it's kind of settled in. Like, scenario 1 is kind of casual, and then it builds, and a campaign should build. And I think you guys have, you got there. And Sinister Motives is, easily a fan favorite in the community.
Very much so.
Yeah,
Well,
gold stars across the board. So
And even when you go back to these old ones with new decks and like 4 years later,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know,
Tommy
Galaxy's Most
and I
Wanted
beat
is
Ronin
not-
finally.
Yeah,
So,
it's not.
yeah.
It's,
Congratulations.
Thank you. We're playing every scenario. He's 12. We're playing every scenario in order. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna play against Ronin, and we won. And he's like, Enchantress was harder. And I'm like, oh my god. So like, it all depends. It all depends.
I think it was interesting what you said about how some of it comes from you as a player and that you get bored, which is kind of how I felt. I know GMW has some specifics to that, but the other ones to me always felt like maybe there was a little bit of just how you like the game to push you and how you kind of design scenarios to push back against that like hero buildup. Like you were saying, like once you get to a certain point in the game, that feeling of like, well, I won, I do this. At most they can do X, Y, and Z, and I can handle that over here. So like at this point, I've already won the game. But a lot of the heroes or villains that you've designed have these ways that the villain can kind of like surge back their board as well. Like it's kind of that
they're scaling at the same rate the heroes are.
They're kind of scaling at the same rate, exactly.
Yeah. Mysterio, the Hood, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it just has, you have this sort of like swing in both directions and not just this like exponential arc of the heroes that they just kind of get out of control at a certain point when they get their resources out. So I didn't know how much that was like, hey, are we just intentionally trying to push difficulty, or how much is like just how you like to play and like making the villains you want to play against, you know?
I think a lot of it does come down to that. I think really what I want is I want tension to be throughout the entire scenario,
Mhm.
and there can be, you know, kind of dips and spikes and stuff, but I definitely want it to be. I'm okay if the win rate. Often we would talk, Caleb and I, about how like if people are winning 80% of the time against the scenarios, that's fine. It's that type of game. There for a long time, it was like a 60-40 thing, but then as we went on, it was like, no, I think, you know, kind of our original core set vision was maybe a little more accurate. But even though you're winning 80% of the time, I think like it needs to feel like, you know, you might lose. It needs to feel like you've got to work for that win. To me, that creates excitement.
80% on standard, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly. 80% on
yeah.
standard. And I also, I'm the type of gamer, board gamer specifically, man, if anything goes longer than like an hour and a half, I have like a 90-minute attention span with board games. I just get to a point where I don't care. I don't care if I win. I don't care if I lose. Like if I'm playing a game and it goes for like 4 or 5 hours, like I've checked out by that point. Like and it has to be a really engaging game to keep me like longer than 90 minutes. Like 2 hours is absolutely my limit. So it's,
I hope that's true of not true of this interview tonight.
you guys got we're okay. Yeah, you got about 15 minutes left, and then
15 minutes left.
There you
Yeah. Okay.
But for the scenarios, you can rack up tension a couple different ways, but you can either make things, you know, a little spikier where they're coming in bursts, and it's like, okay, it's swinging back at me, and I have to kind of deal with that. And because it's swinging back at me, because they're bursts, in my mind, like because those packets of difficulty are sort of coming in waves, they don't have to happen for as long. Like the scenario can be kind of focused on the 8 to 10 rounds, or you can kind of take things and spin it around and kind of like lengthen the difficulty where the villain sort of builds up over time, or it has like a lot of health or something like that. And maybe on some levels like that can feel more fair long term, but those scenarios sometimes will drag like an hour and a half to 2 hours, like where it's like you get to the end, you're like, oh, that was a really epic fight, but wow, that took a long time. That took a really long time to play. So like I don't like that latter type of design, not because there's anything wrong with the design, but me as a player, I don't want to play through that. So often I would kind of lean in the other direction and have things that were a bit more spiky or a bit more packets of difficulty to try to keep the game, you know, within that specific time range that I enjoy.
Yeah, we play a lot of standard simply for the length of time.
Yeah.
There's less hit points to dig through, right? So let's get back to some rapid fire questions. Let's move on, shall we? Shall we try to
Indeed.
Yeah, okay.
Quick.
What was your favorite villain to design?
Favorite villain to design? Probably Mysterio. I ended up really loving that one.
Yeah, that's really good. We love Mysterio here.
So, what's your least favorite hero you designed?
It's because we don't like heroes. See, because we're the villains.
Least favorite hero. I would probably say. I feel like the default answer is Hulk, but aside from Hulk, if I had to pick one, it would probably be. Oh man, that one's
It's
tricky.
Iron Man because he did it in a cave with a box of scraps.
Yeah, with a box of scrap. What was there was one in the Sinister Motives wave that I found really, really challenging. Oh, Ironheart. I found her so difficult. And even now when I play her, I like her kit overall. It didn't quite turn out the way I wanted. I feel like sometimes it's too easy just to build up your suit and basically go, I don't know, Super Saiyan, and then it's just like, well, I just destroy everything now. I feel I wish that tension was a little more dragged. I wish you had to work for it a little bit more.
We villains agree.
But just getting that whole mechanism working at all was challenging, and I think I was frustrated by that whole process. So
I think you were on the show before and you talked about how you had to like redesign her over Christmas break or something, and there wasn't a lot of
it was
time.
in the span of a couple of weeks, and it was just me by myself, just playing it again and again and again and again. And yeah, it was very, very frustrating.
All right, back to rapid fire. Michael, which villain did you wish you could design but didn't get to? And which hero?
I think hero, that's an easy one. So I did like a very, very early pass on Iceman, but that's right as I was leaving FFG. So it was kind of just like I made a design in a couple days, handed it to Caleb, and then let him take it, which he did a great job. But that was a hero that I always wanted to like really like, be nitpicky with all the abilities and everything like that. In terms of villain, I would say maybe Dr. Octopus. I mean, he's in the Sinister Six scenario, but I think just having his own scenario, that would have been really, really fun to
Yeah, I agree on that one. That would have been a good one.
Do you still like to play Marvel Champions now that you've been off the line for a while?
I play it every now and then. There's a group in Shanghai who plays at like a local board game cafe here. So I've played with them a few times. It does still feel like work to me, weirdly enough. Like even when I just sit down to play a casual game, I don't know, my brain just like kind of switches into that mode. So it's a hard game for me to just enjoy as a game because I worked on it for so long. But yeah, every now and then I'll play. Actually, there was a group that I played with a few times. They had no idea who I was. So like the rules questions would come up and I'd answer them. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, you know this game really well." And I'm like, "Yeah, I do. I know it very, very well." And eventually, one of the guys found out who I was, so that was fun. But yeah, maybe every couple months I'll play it casually.
So, do you prefer standard 1, 2, or 3? And do you play expert at all?
Expert, yeah. That group plays expert a lot, and I think they only have the first standard set, so we never play any of the other ones. So if I had to pick them, I'd probably pick just standard 1 because it's the classic. I haven't played standard 3 yet, though. I've heard a lot of good things about that one. I heard a lot of people really enjoyed that one.
Well, the only good thing about it is it's awesome.
Yeah, that's a pretty good thing, I guess. I know it's kind of the whole. Is it like a nemesis or something mechanic?
Yeah, it's nemesis oriented in that it guarantees Shadow of the Past coming out.
That's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, over the course of the game, you put these little pursued counters out, and when it hits a certain number, you bring out your nemesis set. So during the game, you're like, okay, it's at 3, and if it gets to 5, Whiplash is coming out, and you're like, oh, it's at 4. Oh, it's at 5. Here it comes. Like, so you have this whole build up for it. Yeah.
That's fun.
If you play fast enough, you might avoid it, but there is a good chance that you get your nemesis, which is great because you guys designed all these nemesis, and we want to play with them.
So here we go. What do you miss most about designing for Marvel Champions?
Oh wow. I would say probably just the team, which actually I'm fortunate that I still get to work with the team in some capacity, doing freelance. But the team was always, everyone at FFG is a pleasure to work with. People at Asmodee are a pleasure to work with. So the game was always fun to work on, and delving into the comics and all that type of stuff. That was always really exciting. But at the end of the day, if the team of people you're working with is kind of not that fun, then the process can be miserable. And while I found sometimes the process frustrating, it was never because of the team. It was always because of other things. So I miss the people there.
So what's been the most fun design that you've worked on since you left?
Should people who want more Michael Boggs go and find?
Yeah. So I've got a new card game coming out here. It'd probably be next year or early 2027. It's still got a while before it releases, but it's called Hub World Eidolon. It's a competitive card game. So it's being published by Earthborn Games, who recently released
Wow.
Earthborn Rangers.
Okay.
So yeah, there's
All
a
right.
whole.
Great.
It's up on GameFound right now. There's some information online. So Hub World Eidolon.
Looks cool. I'm looking at it now. Competitive,
Yes.
you said, huh? So
It is competitive, yeah. So we've had quite a few people reach out and be like, "Hey, I'll play it if there's a solo mode." And it's like, unfortunately,
Nope.
there is no solo mode. But if you like competitive card games, this might be.
And can you do me a favor, Michael, and not ever make a solo mode?
Yeah, that's
Like
in a competitive game.
the tacked on. Oh, every game is supposed to have one of those now. Ugh.
yeah, that's very much kind of the what we've decided. Like with the early questions,
Thank
does
you.
it have a solo mode? It's like, to design one of those, maybe it's possible, but that's
We need
that's
to promote.
years down the line, and I don't ever find them that fun. I feel like the game's not built with it in mind, and it is just tacked on at the end of the day.
And just in like the universe, we need to promote the idea that troglodytes can come out and make friends. Like there's not everything needs a solo mode. It just drives me bonkers because most games that wasn't what it was supposed to be about, and then the mode is terrible. So thank you. Stick to your guns on that one, my brother.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
It's kind of a spiritual successor to Netrunner, right? In a sense.
It was inspired by it a little bit. So
Yeah,
yeah,
inspired
my friend Corey and I, my co-designer, we both really liked Netrunner, but there was a point where I was working on a design, kind of showed it to him, and it kind of was taking different ideas from Netrunner, specifically the hidden information aspect. That was always my favorite part of Netrunner. Oh, I don't know what's in your hand, but I need to find a specific thing, and I got the thing I needed, or I hit a trap. Like those moments have a lot of like inherent excitement. So I was trying to play on that. So I created a prototype, an early design. Corey and I played that together, made some tweaks and iterations, and eventually found the foundation that became Eidolon. So
And
yeah,
do you give wacky names to hand, discard pile, and deck?
we do. The hand is the council, the deck is the network, and the discard pile is the archives, which is actually really interesting. That was something that I used to hate in Netrunner. Like when I first started, because it makes it so hard to learn.
It was my initial turnoff to the game.
Yeah, I used to hate it so much, but then when we started doing Eidolon, I realized like I think the reason that it's, at least for us, it's the reason that we settled on it, because you're interacting with these game areas so frequently as like a target of attack. It feels kind of anticlimactic when it says, "I attack your deck, I attack your hand."
Definitely
like
anti-thematic. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, exactly, right. Yeah, but I'm attacking your council, and it's like, oh, okay, this paints a picture of what's happening, right? I think for Netrunner, and also Netrunner is very much a product of the Richard Garfield 90s design. I mean, even Magic the Gathering names the library and stuff when it probably doesn't have to. But with like Netrunner and these other games that like do target individual game zones, I don't know. It feels kind of lame when it's like, oh, I make an attack on your discard pile, and it's like, okay, that's
good on you.
fine,
I'm glad you did it. As soon as you said it was like, yeah, we were inspired by that. I was like, I hope that part stays.
Yeah, it was we did that a lot, but
yeah.
I think it definitely helps the theme of stuff.
Non-collectible. Okay, I'm in. It's that I like that aspect of what any of these games. I'm too old to collect cards now.
Yeah, I'm
Sell
the same
me
way.
Everything.
I just want a box. Just give me the stuff and I'll play it.
Give me the stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
Give me the stuff
Amen,
and a
brother.
bunch of like ways I can play it that are interesting. Yeah. So.
Well, holy cow! This has been a super long show. I think we're out of questions. We've asked pretty much everything, or you answered them prior to us asking. Thank you for coming on the show and talking with us. Thank you for making Marvel Champions. Hopefully you're back for more Marvel Champions. Can't wait.
Yeah, I think you guys will see more stuff in the future for sure.
Oh,
That's
there you
very
go.
exciting.
That makes it a truth.
You heard it here first, folks. All right. Well, thank you, Michael, for coming on. Folks, you can email us at criticalencounterspod@gmail.com. We're Critical Encounters on Facebook. You can find our YouTube, Twitch, or Patreon by searching for Critical Encounters Podcast. And on Discord, we are Vardane, Big Foam Loaf, and Lexicon. You can
Steve,
find.
can I stop you there?
Yeah. Okay.
Because these are all sorts of ways to reach us, and I have I gotta quit. Recently, I've been getting a ton of IKEA invoices, and I don't.
Oh,
understand.
yeah.
You've seen them, right?
Yeah,
they
for
come-
new furniture.
Yeah. So I've been getting it seems like 100 at this point. Order forms, like a PDF order form receipts or whatever,
Yeah.
and then return slips and delivery notifications and cancels of delivery. There's apparently a new chair that I'm supposed to be on the lookout for in the lair.
Is it 1 or 2 inches too short for the table?
Yes, it seemed odd, but yes, I keep getting these. Seriously, it's a crazy number of invoices for a new chair.
A brand new clean chair for someone to sit in. Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah,
well,
I
we'll
don't
have to investigate that.
Yeah, I don't understand why Mike is trying to upgrade his chair.
I don't know if Mike is trying to upgrade his chair or not.
Okay,
Huh.
and nor do I understand why there aren't any meatballs on the receipts, because I know my local IKEA. I just go there for the meatballs.
Yeah, well, we'll have to inspect. That's
So-
really the bigger
That
mystery.
might be the actual mystery. But yeah, I'm just curious. Maybe these people can let us know, why are we getting these?
Yeah,
hundreds of emails?
if you know what these chairs are about, please let us know. Where was I? What was I saying?
Oh, something about our show.
Oh, on Discord. Yeah, on Discord, we're Vardane, Big Fun Loaf, and Lexicon. And you can find more of Michael Boggs' stuff over on GameFound.com or check out Earthborn Games for Hub World Eidolon. If you like our show, tell your friends. If you don't like our show, tell your enemies. Loki, take us out.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to destroy Jotunheim.
Michael, before you leave, I have a couple questions for you because we didn't ask you enough. No, you're just going to answer. Okay, this is rapid fire. This or that. I want to see where you fall in line with the rest of the villains. No explanation needed. Pretend that you are a villain and you are doing these things to the hero. Okay.
Okay.
Ready? Stun or confuse?
Stun.
Guard or patrol?
Patrol.
Amplify or hazard?
Amplify.
Suggested modular sets for the scenario or choose your own custom modular set?
Ooh, suggested.
Okay, and now these are just one is just Rocket or Groot.
Rocket, I guess.
Okay.
It's a hard one.
Spectrum or Storm?
Storm.
And do you like the high hit points with a low hand size or low hit points with a high hand size?
Low hit points, high hand sizes.
Right.
Okay.
Answer.
And last one, chump block those allies or Voltron those allies?
Voltron.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, you heard it, folks. That was the this or that.
Let us know. Did you pick correctly?
Yeah.